Hi, and welcome to my garden here in Berkeley, California, Zone 10A. In addition to this lemon tree and these rose bushes, we have a raised bed and some containers I've been experimenting with. Let me show you around. Most of the plants in this raised bed came as seedlings from the UC Master Gardeners program. So they had a day, I think it was April 19th, earlier this year. I went to Richmond, California, and picked up some little seedlings. I had looked at the menu of offerings online before going and had some idea of what I wanted to get, but you know, wasn't totally prepared for, oh, if that certain variety was already gone or something, what would I replace it with? But at the event, they had a lot of people there who were part of the program to answer questions and help you pick out something good to grow. So let me give you a little tour of what's here. So over here is a galeen eggplant. You can see little blossoms on the eggplant, but yeah, I don't know, no fruits yet. Some of the larger leaves, like this one down here, is a little yellow, so that might fall off, but as you can see, there's also new leaves growing there. So I'm not really sure what's typical for eggplant plants, but seems like it's doing okay. Over here we have my cucumber plant, and this one also seems to be doing really well. It's growing taller and taller each day. I've had to take two of these little bamboo trellises and stack them on top of each other. One kind of weird thing that's going on with this one is that it does have flowers, as you can see, but sometimes it looks like a little cucumber is growing, but then it kind of just dies. So I think the one I'm pointing at right now used to be a cucumber that looked sort of like, it's hard to get a good view, but let me see. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little cucumber on there. And I'm pretty sure this one that looks dead used to look like that. So I don't know if that's normal, but the little cucumbers don't seem to be getting very big. And yeah, but the plant itself is growing pretty tall and has lots of leaves, so I don't know. Okay, over here we have cilantro, and this cilantro was doing okay, but it's kind of flopped over. It's not standing up anymore. I don't really know why. I'll probably harvest some of this to eat before it all dies, but yeah, I don't really know how to get that thriving again. I guess it'll probably help to trim it a little bit and cut some of those things off, and maybe more of the nutrients can go to new growth. I don't know. So over here we have my jalapeno plant. As you can see, it's called Jala Fuego, and it's also doing okay, just growing, and always has more leaves. You can see like all these leaves that are really green and smaller, those are all like new leaves. Like this, I think, is one of the original leaves that was on it when I got it, but yeah, so you can see that it's growing new leaves and stuff, but no signs of any jalapenos yet. Over here we have another eggplant. This one is called Orient Express. And seems like it's doing fine, has some blossoms. It also has some leaves that are turning yellow, but then it has these new leaves down here. So I think it's okay. And then, oh, there's a funny story about this squash. So you can see that there's this little guy popping up, and then now next to it there's another one which is popping up and gonna open up. And what happened there is that these are seeds that are like 4 years old at this point, and so I was like, okay, I gotta use them. So I planted 2 seeds in one hole, and I waited maybe like 11 days, and I didn't see anything happening. So I was like, okay, well, the seeds are 4 years old. I know from ChatGPT that that means that the germination rate is probably lower. So maybe it was a dud and it didn't work, and so I should plant more. So I made another hole and I planted 2 more seeds. And another reason why I thought maybe the original one wasn't growing was because I forgot to water it for a little bit. So I was like, okay, well, I know that seeds usually need a lot of water when they're first starting out. And so because I had forgotten to water it, I figured that also lowered the likelihood that it was really going to sprout. But after I planted the second set of seeds, like the next day or maybe 2 or 3 days after that, this one popped up. So I was like, okay, I don't know if that's the old one or the new one. Figured it was probably the old one. And now I have confirmation because this one popped up that, yeah, they both germinated. So I'll have to thin that out and probably pull the younger one. So now over on this side of the raised bed, the plants I got from the UC Master Gardeners program are this paste tomato, which is called La Roma 3. And that other one, which is a cherry tomato called Sweetie. And I did get a basil plant also from the UC Master Gardeners program, which I had planted in between them because I knew that basil and tomatoes were companion plants. But that basil has long since died. So a little while later, I went to a nursery and I got this basil plant, and I also got cilantro, which I had planted over there behind this other tomato plant. And then one thing that's really cool is that these 2 plants are actually suckers that I cut off from this cherry tomato plant. So I saw a video about how to prune tomato plants, and in it the guy was saying that you could theoretically plant the suckers and they'll grow new tomato plants. So they don't look very healthy right now. I don't know, the leaves are turning yellow, but they are at least each producing a little bit of fruit. So that's really cool. This basil plant, it's not doing very well, but my little 1.5-year-old son came out here and pulled off a lot of the leaves, so that's partially why. And oh, you can see mushrooms growing. Yeah, so mushrooms have been popping up in this raised bed, which I think is a sign that the soil is healthy and has good microbes and things growing in there. So that's good. Yeah, so I generally just leave the mushrooms alone. Over here in this area, I planted another sucker there and another sucker right there. This sucker is actually from a dwarf tomato plant, which I'll show in a sec, but it's not really doing anything. And neither is that one. So I'll just leave them there for now, but I don't have really high expectations for them. Okay, so going over here to my Home Depot 5-gallon buckets, made with food grade plastic. So we have a dwarf tomato plant called Dwarf Baronia, and you can see that a tomato is growing on that. And then behind it we have basil, and I'm trying to grow this basil into like a bush style. So I pruned the main stem at the top, and I'm trying to encourage those 2 side shoots growth. So it looks like it's doing pretty well. That basil, along with the other one I showed in the raised bed, is from a nearby nursery. And I didn't realize this at the time that I bought them, but when you buy basil at a nursery, they want the basil to look really full and healthy, so they have multiple basil plants in one container. And when you buy it and plant it in your own yard or raised bed or garden, when you buy that and plant it in your own garden, it actually, the basil is likely to die because it doesn't have enough nutrients to sustain like multiple plants like that. So I watched a YouTube video where the guy said to cut the other plants and just let one of them grow. So after a while I did notice, you know, my little cluster of basil plants wasn't doing very well. So I did that, and now it looks a lot better. So over here we have another dwarf tomato plant. This one is called Dwarf Roselia Crimson. And yeah, I'm really excited about these tomatoes. They're beefsteak tomatoes, and you can see that one of them is starting to turn red. The little tag says pink, so I don't know, maybe they'll be like more of a pinkish color when they're ripe. And then behind that, I'm growing cilantro. So, okay, so this cilantro is from a nursery, and after I planted my other cilantro in the middle of the raised bed, I learned that cilantro actually wants like partial shade. It actually doesn't like full sun, and I think that's why the cilantro I had planted in the raised bed behind the tomato plant it died because it had too much sun. So this cilantro is actually doing the best out of my 2, well 3 if you count the dead one, cilantro plants. And yeah, it's I just recently cut one of the stems where it was bolting. Bolting means like going to seed because it's too warm. And I didn't cut it at the base because actually I think that's why that other cilantro plant is flopped over. That flopping happened after I cut the bolted versions at the... Let me tell you a story about these 3 pots. So that pot over there is terracotta, and I bought it because I wanted a pot to grow a big basil bush in. And I bought it at the same time that I bought a different plastic pot, which I'm using to grow teddy bear sunflowers, which I'll show in a second. But It's a similar sized pot. So I planted my basil in that pot, and I planted my teddy bear sunflowers in a different pot, and, watered them each day, and noticed that the terracotta one was drying out a lot faster than the plastic one. Eventually, both the teddy bear sunflower and the basil seeds germinated and sprouted, but the tiny little basil sprouts, one day I came out and one of them was missing. And then the next day, or maybe 2 days later, the little leaf had fallen off of the other basil sprout. So I was like, okay, I probably need to plant basil seeds again. And this time, I'm not going to do it in terracotta, because I learned that since terracotta is permeable, the water actually gets out of the soil faster and it dries out faster. So I'm probably going to save that terracotta pot for something that needs less water, like a succulent or something like that. And I took these two glazed ceramic pots that I had that actually had other dead plants in them, and I put fresh soil and I planted basil in each of these. So in the blue one, I planted 3 basil plants in a triangle, and in the brown one, I planted 1 right in the center. So I'm excited for those. Basil, the other basil I had planted germinated in like 5 days, so I should see basil come up here soon. Now we're in the backyard, and I have these 2 self-watering salad planters set up next to the fence here. The fence is on the east side of these planters, and this area only gets sun in the afternoon. So I purposely chose some plants that I think don't want full sun and want some shade. So here we have in the right there, we have tot soy, which is a type of Asian green. Down here, there's a trench of scallions, and you can see that I think this is a little bit of tot soy that must have gotten over here from like vigorous watering or something. You can see the tiny little scallion guys coming up here. Yeah, they look a little dried out, but I'm not sure what they're supposed to look like. And then over here in this corner is a parsley seed that I planted, but it hasn't sprouted yet. And I asked ChatGPT about that, and it said that parsley takes a notoriously long time to emerge. So I think I planted that on June 25th, and it's July 8th right now. So it's been like 13 days. So yeah, maybe if I don't see it emerge soon, I'll try and plant more. But I got these seeds from freeheirloomseeds.org, and they all look very successful with germinating, so kind of assuming the parsley one is doing stuff under there. It's just taking a while. Over here in this other planter, we have calendula, beets, marigold, and marigold over there. And yeah, these all look pretty good. I'm not really sure. I think I'm supposed to maybe thin them later on, but yeah, I don't know. And then these are the little lids for the planters. When the seeds were germinating, I definitely had the lids on all the time to create a moist and warm environment for them. Now when the sun is out, I've been taking the lids off and kind of letting them get a little bit of like wind and more exposure to the elements. Um, but yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do with the lids right now, if I'm supposed to keep them on or keep them off. Um, as I said before, these planters are self-watering, so there's like a water reservoir at the bottom, and then um, the soil and the roots kind of absorb the water and bring it up to the plants. And that little thing is a way to measure how full the water reservoir is. So looks like it's about halfway full in each. Thanks for watching this video, and hopefully I'll make more with more garden updates. See you soon!